Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It's kind of cool today, a little cloudy as you can kind of see. More rain in the forecast. It's probably going to get a little mix of clouds and sunshine and periods of rain over the next several days here. It's just kind of that cycle that we're in. This is normal this time of the year. But it's actually pretty nice. It's the weather's, it's almost just a little chill to it, especially when you first wake up in the morning. I want to talk to you today about, well, what do you folks do that may not be as, that may not have the physical advantages as some of us. And I'm trying to be gentle in putting it this way, but for those of you that are in this situation, I think you get it. You're older, you're disabled, you're a single mom, whatever the situation is, you're not physically capable, at least you don't think you are, of living the lifestyle that I speak of all the time, of being self-sufficient, going out and rucking and training and developing skills and producing your own food and all of this kind of stuff that I talk about that's really necessary for us to break away from this failing system. I've spoken many times and even recently that really I think the best way to kind of stick it to them, right? Stick it to the man is to not need them. We've over the last century or so, as a people, have built this dependency upon the system, upon the government, of all that kind of stuff. And that's, this nanny state. And it's way more than just welfare checks and stuff like that. We're all have some level of dependency upon an established system that is controlled by elites. And we have to break away from that. And for people that are physically able to do that, you're able to go out and, like I said, work in a garden, raise cows or goats or sheep or chickens or whatever it is, and then defend all that, you have an advantage. And then there's other people that, well, you may not have that advantage. And so I want to talk about that today because that's important. And there are ways that you can work around that. There's ways that you can still survive. I've heard from so many people over the years that'll email me and they'll say, I really support what you say, what you do. It's great advice. Unfortunately for myself, I'm old or I'm disabled or whatever the situation is. And I've already just accepted that I'm going to die when this happens. When everything falls apart, I'm just not going to make it. And that's really the wrong attitude to have. It's not guaranteed. Any one of us, the healthiest and the strongest, could perish very early on also because of whatever reasons. And so that's why we prepare, so that it gives us that advantage, kind of like an insurance policy, to potentially not happen to us, that bad stuff not happen to us. So I want to talk to you about that today. Also, just want to mention, if you're in the market for some boomsticks or freedom seeds, there's a link down in the description, should be also a pinned comment below. They've been running some good sales. I'll just leave a link to the whole website, and you can go on there and you can order, the freedom seeds online, certain boomstick components, if you understand my speaking. You can order those online. Some of them you have to go through an FFL, but it's some pretty good prices. Anyway, so you're older, you're disabled, you're in a wheelchair, there's certain medical needs that you have, or maybe you're young and healthy, but you're a single mother, or you're just really poor, or there's all these types of things, these little boxes we want to put ourselves in and say that we, ideologically we agree with all of this. But, the reality is we just can't. We're that group that can't. And no one knows. But it's ridiculous, I think, to just already give up. If you don't try and you give up, then you've already lost. And so let's get into that. First things first, especially and this applies to all of those categories, but it used to be very specific to elderly. Only in modern times in our Western society do we take the elderly and say, well, once you reach a certain age, you're not really of any value anymore, so we're going to put you away in a nursing home, or you just live out your life of ease because you're just too old to do anything and you, again, have no value. That's not true, and in the past, it's not been true. If you went back 100, 150, 200 years ago, and you really wouldn't have to go that far back. You could go back 50 or 60 years ago and see this happen. In fact, it happens today very commonly on, say, Amish and Mennonite farms. Whereas the grandparents, once they reach a certain age to where they may not be physically able to go out and do all the hard work, they become kind of the babysitters, the nannies, the home keepers for the most part. They take care of things at home, allowing the healthy parents to be able to do the more manual labor. Using my family as an example, my wife and I, individually and together, we're younger, we're healthy still, we can do most anything on our homestead. My wife can do just about anything that I can do. I may be stronger, I may know more about certain things than she does, but she can certainly keep up, even if it comes to defense. You know, both my wife and I train often, and so we're capable of doing those things. But we have children. Now, our children are starting to get, one of them is definitely old enough to kind of handle himself. I mean, he's a teenager, so he's going through those I've left my brain setting somewhere years, but still, he's physically able. The younger ones, they're getting up there. But still, the principle remains the same. If we're out surviving, if we're trying to eke out a survival life, my wife and I can do a lot of those physical things. And if there was an elderly couple in our group, they could be the ones taking care of the children while we're out doing those things. So while my wife and I are taking care of animals and gardens and defense and patrols and you know, purifying water and building things and stuff like that, those of you that may be more on the elderly side, you could be at home taking care of the children, cooking for them, educating them, passing on stories. There's so much there that is still so valuable of teaching them. There's and I'm not going to go into this for this video. It's kind of a separate thing, but it's very much related. There's a lot missing in our society, and I think it plays big into why we're seeing so many younger people just have behavior issues and not be able to find themselves, not have so many questions about life and everything. I think part of it is we're now into at least the second generation, maybe third, that hasn't had their grandparents much in their lives. Again, back in the old days, the grandparents would either live on the farm with them or they would live close by, and they would be very much involved in the children's life. And now that's not happening. So that is a place for the elderly, but that's also the place for those of you that may be a little disabled. Some of you that, you know, maybe you're, for whatever reason, you're not able to do everything. So finding your place in a community where you can contribute in that way is very much needed. Here's the reality of things. A post-apocalyptic SHTF community, it's going to function in a lot of ways like a current farm does. You know, on our farm, and this is always the hardest thing for children, is that the animals that exist on our farm, they're there for a purpose. And if they don't have a purpose, then they don't need to be there. They're either there to breed or as food or, you know, some other, you know, maybe it's wool or something like that, or they're there to sell. We don't have a petting zoo, in other words. We're not there to just have animals just because they're cute. Unfortunately, that's how it's going to be in the future when it comes to people. You need to have a purpose. And your purpose may not be going out there and doing hard manual labor or being on the front line of defense. Your purpose may be educating the children. Your purpose may be taking care of the home, carrying on traditions. You know, this may be your purpose. You may be an advisor. You know, you may not physically be able to do the job, but you have the knowledge in your head. So you're passing that information on to younger generations. So you have to find your purpose when it comes to being part of a community, especially the post-SHTF community, because that's going to be very important. And everyone, I believe, if they have the desire, can find their purpose in that. I'm not one of these that many in the past and still currently, have this idea that, if you're not a Green Beret, a scientist, a doctor, or a mechanic or a welder, then you have no purpose in a community. I don't believe that's true. It takes all types to make it work, and so you can do that. And again, it's the same way if you're disabled. It's the same way if you're if you're a single mom. Maybe you've got little children and you're like, I can do some things, but I can't do everything. That's fine. You can find a purpose. And so I would encourage those of you that fall in that category to find a purpose. Now, along with that, because I have people asking that fall into these categories all the time, what are we supposed to do? How am I supposed to handle this? How would I be accepted into a community? How would I find others that would see me of any value? Again, you have to put something forth into it. And part of that is your knowledge, your skills, your ability to do things that alleviates work for the ones that can physically do stuff. But also you should be prepped up, okay? You should have, a good amount of supplies prepped up, developing your knowledge. It's almost like a resume. It's almost like a resume. You go in and you're wanting to be part of a community, you're wanting to be part of a mag or whatever it is. You don't want to just walk in and say, well, I'm old, I'm falling apart. I got all these ailments, but I still want to be part of it. No, you need to go in and talk about or present what you can do. Because and some are going to see that and some aren't. That's just the harsh reality of it. But I think most of the good ones would see that and see that you have something to offer. I would highly recommend anyone, whether you're elderly, disabled, or perfectly healthy, to be getting yourselves pretty well ready right now. There's a lot of little things on the horizon. This H5N1, I do think it's probably going to turn out to be something more significant than what it is. This week alone, I've gotten a couple of pieces of intel that I think are pretty solid, and both of them were similar in the fact that the intel is that these pro-Hamas protests that are going on, that they're about ready to kind of increase in intensity, that there's plans to move that along further. It's very possibly so. We've got an election coming up in 6 months or so, and so that is heating up. There's so much going on with that. The legal things with Trump wanting to arrest him, throw him in jail. The stuff going on with the border. I mean, there's been tens of millions of people come into this country illegally, folks. Tens of millions. Hundreds of thousands of Chinese, very likely Chinese that have either prior or current military background in the Chinese army. There's been reports, I said this, I think yesterday, reports of United Nations troops coming across the border illegally. I don't want to put too much fear into this, okay? But it's like all of these issues are starting to come together and congregate. And is this the year? I don't know, but I can tell you that I think this is the year that things are going to intensify. I don't know if this is the year that everything falls apart, but it does look and appear that things are starting to intensify, even though over the last couple of weeks, if you just looked at news and stuff on the surface, it almost seems like we're in a little bit of a lull. And I've talked about that before, of how when we go through those time periods, it's almost worse than when things seem to be really intense. And so I would be very much trying to get things ready for yourselves, stocking up, learning, developing skills, getting out there, getting your body physically ready, exercise, lose some weight, that kind of stuff. But then for those of you, like I've said in this video, that fall into that category, that you may feel like you don't have as much to offer, don't sell yourself short. In our community, we have several elderly couples that are, I believe, just as valuable as any of the young bucks or something that can go out there and fight or dig holes or, butcher animals, anything like that, because they bring so much knowledge and experience in. And and the ability to take care of little ones, which is also very valuable in a community when things fall apart. So the bottom line for this video is that, number one, you better be getting ready soon. But number two, those of you that aren't in that top tier, I guess you could say, category of what people would consider valuable in a mag, you do have value. You can make it through this. I'm not telling you will, but I'm telling you can. If you persevere, if you think clearly, if you have that determination, and then of course the most important thing to make it through all this is to be prayerfully ready. You know, you've stocked up basically, and you've been doing your workouts, and you've been, you know, prepping up when it comes to spiritual strength. And so you need to be doing that, spending time every day in prayer and Bible reading, and just getting your life in order in that area. And so I've had several, the reason for this video, I've had several emails just in the last couple of weeks of people asking similar questions like this. What are we supposed to do? I'm old, you know, I'm in my 70s. I've got some kind of disability. Yeah, it's going to put you at a disadvantage, but you can make it if you do the right things and you get yourself into the right group of people. You are valuable, and you can make it through that. So don't sell yourself short, folks. It's time to get your houses in order. Again, I think things are starting to really heat up, and we need to be getting ourselves ready mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.